Hey everyone, this is Fiona from Feline Jungle. Today's video is a full plant tour before the end of the year. I haven't done one of these videos in a long time, and since the last plant tour, I've added a lot more plants into my collection. In this video, I'm mostly going to go over new plants that I've added and also major updates. I'm going to start off with the stairwell, which is the first thing you'll see when you enter our home.
We wanted to take advantage of this skylight that we get and all the natural light that we get here to add some plants. Originally, this stairwell was very bland, very boring. Not until we installed this hanging rod, and it was actually a lot of work to install this hanging rod and very unsafe. So to minimize the kind of risk of falling down the stairs, we chose to put a lot of low maintenance plants here. So the plants here only needs to be watered once every 2 weeks, I would say. Like this string of hearts over here and this Spanish moss. It's a type of air plant, so it just needs to be mist, which makes it very low maintenance. And then this is the string of hooks, which is very easy to take care of compared to the other stringy plants. It's a very prolific grower, and we also just water it once every 2 weeks. And you'll notice that because the light is coming from the top of these plants are very full. Usually the top of the plants are very bald because it's not getting enough light. But because of the skylight that we have here, these plants are very full. So far, they're doing good. The only casualty I had was actually the string of hooks. This is a second one that I got here. The first one, I overwatered it. It was the summer and I just thought it needed more water, and turns out it didn't even need that much water and it started getting root rot. So this is actually a new one. These two we actually got at the same time in the Flower District in New York. I highly recommend you to go there because we got these for such a steal. I think each of them was 30 bucks and they came this long. Actually, they were even longer than this, and we just had to cut it back because it was getting all tangled up. It took me hours to untangle it, and at one point I just cut it back. So at one point this was even fuller and longer than this. So if you're looking for a full basket of string of hearts or a string of hooks, I recommend you going to the Flower District in New York. So moving along here, after you see our trailing plants, I have one of my most favorite plants here. So when people come into our house, I can show them my most favorite plant. This is the Philodendron Florida Green. I bought it as a Florida Ghost, but after long times of experimenting with different grow lights, it's just not giving me that creamy white leaf that a Florida Ghost would, but I still love it a lot. It's a very prolific grower. One of my first rare plants that I got, and as you can see, it's growing off of the moss pole that I made for it. So eventually I'm just gonna have to cut it back or extend the moss pole. Down here, I have a very similar plant with similar leaf structure that I like a lot about the Philodendron Florida Ghost. This is the Philodendron scoriferum. The main difference between this and the Florida Ghost is the fuzzy petioles that you see here. It's a very strange plant, and that's why I like it a lot. It has a really cool structure and it has very nice texture too. And I realized that when you give it enough light, the stem actually becomes red. So when I bought it, this was originally how it looked, and then the new ones are becoming red because of the grow light that I give it. Here I also have a collection of moss poles, just in case I need it for a plant. This is one that I made. If you're interested, you can watch my video on how to DIY a moss pole. I also have some pre-made ones here that I get from Amazon. These are actually extendable, so they're better than the ones that I made. And there's a recent one that I got from a plant shop that I love a lot. It's called Plant Corner in Harlem, and they were selling this 3D moss pole that I have yet to try out. It's also extendable, which is pretty cool. So I just have these handy whenever I need to give my plants some support. Then I'm going to take you guys into my dining room area where you guys are probably most used to seeing. The plants have taken over this room. It's not even really a dining room anymore. This has become like a propagation table. I have a lot of cuttings here that I'm just about to check and repot before the winter. So I'll just talk about these guys. This is the philodendron white wizard that I got from my friend Candace, low-key plant lady. I actually met her for the first time last week and it was such a blast. So she gave me this beautiful cutting with half moon variegation, and this is actually a full white leaf, which is interesting. It's fully rooted, so I'm thinking that I should repot it before the winter. What do you guys think? It's really well rooted, so that's probably something I'm gonna do. And then here I also have some cuttings, Hoya cuttings. This is the Hoya microphylla, the variegated one. The one that I have hanging wasn't doing so well, so I decided to just cut it to give it a fresh start. And it's rooting already after like 2 weeks in water. What else do I have in here? I have a lot of random stuff. Like, I was not expecting to propagate so much, so I ran out of these glass jars. Here is a philodendron silver sword. This is the narrow version that I got from my friend Caesar. And it wasn't doing so well, it got really leggy, so I decided to just cut it and put the top part in water. This rooted in 2 weeks, just in water. So this is doing really good, surprised. Here are my more recent cuttings that I got. These two I also got from Candace from Low Key Plant Lady. This is a Hoya cutting called Hoya Michaela. Very similar to the Obovata. The main difference is the texture, I would say. And she was telling me how these spots are from the grow light that she's using, so nothing to be scared about. And I just got these last week, so they aren't rooted yet, but I see a lot of bumps. That is potential for roots, so this should root really quickly. Here is another cutting that I got from her, another Hoya cutting. This is the Hoya acuta, the variegated version. I love the shape of the leaves, which is very different, and also the variegation. It also has a lot of these growth points, so it should root really quickly. Hoyas root really well in water. This is also from a recent plant swap. This is from Phoebe, and I actually got a full plant from her. It was getting leggy, so I decided to just chop it up and try to root this one as well. But yeah. Everything in here hasn't rooted yet, so we'll see how they do in a couple weeks. I need some more propagation jars because this is not doing it. This is another jar of cuttings that I got from my friend. This is from Anastasia from Leaf and Paul. She got me a bunch of cuttings of begonias because I was telling her I never had begonias before, so just a bunch of begonia cuttings and some Tradescantia. This is from my most recent import from Indonesia. It's the Philodendron Mayoi. This had the best condition out of all of the plants that I got imported, and it had this new leaf. I think this leaf came out looking like this because this is a middle cutting, so it just grew from a growth point, and usually when that happens it turns into the juvenile form of the leaf. So I'm excited to see the next leaf. It's probably going to be more mature and take on that more mature form that you see here. But when it first came out, I'm like, what is this? It doesn't look right. So let's move into this corner. It's pretty jam-packed right here, and me kind of taking over my cat. This is her sunbathing spot now, so let's try not to disturb her as I show you these plants. So we can start over here. This is the rest of the Hoya that I got from Phoebe. I forgot what it's called. I think it's called Numeroides or something. But yeah, I just took a cutting off here. This one is a recent purchase, not by me actually, surprisingly. This is from my boyfriend. He got it because he said it's such a good deal. It was for $25 for a big pot of Hoya Australia Lisa, I think it's called. We actually have a smaller one at home that wasn't doing anything, each growth point that came out just started to die off. So I guess he was just like, oh, let's just restart and buy a whole new one. So here we go with a big basket of Hoya. So behind here, I also have another cutting that I got from Vaughn. This is the Cebu Blue. This is something that I was looking for. So I was really happy to get it from that plant swap. If you guys are interested, you can watch that plant swap. Very fun social event where you just trade plants and meet plant friends. So I have that in here. I just have to repot it. And then this is my Raphidora discursiva. It was growing like a really long stem that was like over 6 feet long. I decided to cut it back. And since then, I've given it a moss bowl to kind of encourage more leaves. And these are the new leaves that came out of it. So I don't know. Let's see what happens in the winter. It might give me a long runner again, like how it did last winter. But so far, it looks like it's not going to do that. It looks like there's a new leaf that's about to come out here. So, hi, me. Here, enjoy your sleep. We're just going to film around you. Okay? Yes. So moving along this windowsill, we have some more plants. This is the Hoya rotundiflora. I talked about it in my previous videos, I think, I'm not sure. But I love the structure of the leaves, the rectangular form. It's very different from most Hoyas. It hasn't given me new leaves since I got it, but it's because when I bought it, it wasn't really well rooted. So I think it concentrated on rooting, and hopefully by next summer, it'll just take off and start giving me new leaves. Here I have a bowl of snake plants that I imported from Indonesia. If you guys are interested, you can check out that video where I unboxed these plants. Originally, they didn't look so happy. But it's giving me a lot of new pups this summer. So this, I forgot what it's called. I know, I'm not even gonna try. I forgot what it's called. But it's giving me 2 pups over here. This is another one. The variegated one, I forgot what it's called. Moving along here, on this side, there's a lot of things going on here. This is my Anthurium crystallinum. Yes, crystallinum, and it's one of my only anthuriums that I like being in soil. I wonder if it's because it's next to the humidifier, but it's actually giving me a new leaf over here. And it's really cool because these turn out red, pinkish, and over the course of like a week or 2, I'll get to like the size of this leaf. So it's really cool to see them grow. Here is an Anthurium veitchii, also another anthurium. I decided to switch it into leca because I realized that a lot of them just like being in leca. And since I did that, here's a new leaf. This is a very mature, very juvenile form of the veitchii. When it gets mature, it has these really cool ripples that are on it, but you can't see that here. So hopefully it'll give me that ripple effect soon. Here is my Hoya Matilda. I really love the shape of these leaves. They're really tiny and cute. It really took off this summer. Like in the beginning of summer, I think it was like 5 leaves starting off here, and then it just took off, and I had to give it a trellis. I couldn't find anything that's, you know, perfect for it, so I decided to make my own DIY trellis, and it's really loving it. It's even given me this new growth point that just started, I think, last month, and now has new 2 growth points. So it's really taken off. It's like it doesn't even know that winter is coming, and it just keeps growing, and the leaves keep getting bigger compared to the last one. Here I have my Syngonium albo that I imported. This Syngonium albo I imported from chlorophyll soil, and it came in really good condition. I just decided to experiment and put it in, oh crap, look at this. Look at the roots. I just decided to experiment and put it in Latruia ponds, and it seems like it's loving it. Look at this, it's growing like crazy. Wow, I was not expecting this. So this is like a self-watering pot. I just have water in here and it just wicks up the right amount of water for the plant. And yeah, it seems to be loving it. I may have to actually give it a moss pole because it's kind of doing this weird thing. It's looking for something to climb, so I'll probably give it one of the moss poles that I made already. What I love about this plant is the variegation. So it has this really nice white variegation that's different on each leaf. It seems like the leaf form is different too. Each one kind of looks funky, so very funky plant. This over here is become one of my most favorite plants just because it grows so fast. This is the Monstera standeliana aurea. I think the difference between the aurea and the albo is that the aurea has like yellow variegation. But yeah, it's just a very prolific grower. It's in this nice booby pot that I have and this crazy long moss pole that I made for it. In the summer, I think it was putting out one new leaf a week. Starting 2 weeks ago, it slowed down a bit. This has been just trying to like mature, but I love the variegation on each leaf, and yeah, it's just a very beautiful and fast grower. Let me put it back. Right next to it, I have some other monsteras. This is the Monstera albo. This one I got for 30 bucks in the beginning of the year. This is my first plant purchase of 2021. It was a plant sale that I found on Abby's plant shop. I was like, albo for 30 bucks, why not try it? And of course it was that cheap because the variegation's low, but you still see some variegation going on each leaf. So it wasn't doing anything for me all summer, so I decided to try this hack that I saw on TikTok. There's a lot of mixed thoughts about this. It's you put like the aerial root in water and it's gonna encourage new leaf. And I have to say, after I try this, you know, it's given me first new leaf in a long time. So I do think that it works, but there's a lot of mixed thoughts about this. Let me know what you guys think. I had a few comments asking me what do I do with this after I get like a big ball of root. So what I'm planning to do is to just pop this back into the pot. I've heard like some people say it'll start rotting, so I'll probably do that before it starts rotting. So far it hasn't given me any problems, so yeah. And as I said, I'm running out of space, so since I have a jar of water, and why not put some propagation in here as well. So I have this peperomia cutting that I got from my friend that I'm also rooting in the same jar as the Monstera. And I don't know if you guys can help me with these roots. Like, these roots do not want to cling on to the moss pole that I gave it. They're all kind of growing in different directions. Like this one's just growing, you know, out this way. So I don't know, it's trying to reach the jar of water. Maybe it feels like the moisture that's coming out of here, that's why it's going towards that direction. Let me know how I can like make it cling back onto the moss pole. Moving on to this side of the table, this is my booby cactus. It has this name obviously because of the shape, and I got it the perfect pot. It has like a booby pot that I got it, and I got it in the beginning of the year. It's a very interesting plant for me. I didn't have this going on when I first purchased it. So what happened was that I got this plant bare rooted and it had actually no roots. I think that's how it's normally shipped. So once I got it, I put it in soil, right into soil to let it root. I've heard other things, like my friend Caesar said that he put his booby cactus in water and it rooted faster for him. It did take a while for this booby cactus to root into soil, and I think that's why it went into shock and it just started to shrivel up on top over here, as you can see. So the top started to shrivel up a bit, but it did start to root, so there's no problem there. But if going back, I probably should have propagated and rooted in water instead. And it's very interesting. I want to talk about this. This is actually a baby booby cactus that formed out of one of these tips. Very, very interesting. I've never had one of these. So when I saw it happen, I was just like, what the hell is going on? And when that happens, these spikes start to fall off and they become fuzzy. So I'm like, is that a mealybug? Or I didn't know what it was, but it wouldn't come off. But I was just like paying close attention to it. So I can show you what happens, because I think this is about to form another baby cactus. So you see how it becomes fuzzy? That's actually the point where it develops a new baby like this. So I have this baby booby cactus that's been forming and growing since the summer. I think I'm gonna wait until next year to snap it off and probably root it in water. But here I have some other snake plants that I imported from Indonesia. This, I believe, was the golden Wendy. I love like the crazy forms. It kind of like grows in this swirly motion. And I repotted it from like the bowl of snake plants that I have over there. There's a new growth point. It's doing really well. Here I also have the variegated whale fin that you guys all loved. Remember in the beginning it was like a taco, it like shriveled up a bit. And then after like 6 months, it slowly started to open up and become more hydrated. And now it's so beautiful. You can actually see the variegation on the leaf. It kind of has this translucent white. That's really nice. I'm hoping this will give me babies so I can propagate it and bring it to plant swaps. So here I have my bigger plants. I would say the biggest plants in my collection. This is my Monstera deliciosa. You guys might recognize this from my plant care video where I talked about how I care about my monsteras and also repotting this. So part of it is from my parents. This is, I think, my parents' plant. I have 2 cuttings in here, and then this is mine. I just kind of combine it to make it a bigger pot. And yeah, it's been doing well since I potted it. I have like some random string of hearts cuttings here that I'm trying to propagate as well. I'm just trying to take advantage of all this space that I have here. But yeah, it's doing well. Here I have my favorite plant. This is my Philodendron Florida Green. I don't think it's a Florida Ghost. This was originally in the entrance where you saw my other Philodendron Florida Green. And I just thought I'll move it into this spot to get more natural sunlight. I don't think it actually enjoys the natural sunlight as much as the grow light that I had over there. When it was on the grow light, the leaves were huge. And here, after I moved it, the leaves are smaller, but it's growing taller. Like before, I think the grow light was encouraging bigger leaves, but here with the natural sunlight and it trying to reach for the light, it's actually stretching and growing taller, which is what I wanted. So now it's on 2 extendable moss poles. Right next to it, I have another big monstera that I got recently. This is a cutting. Let me try to show you. This is actually a cutting that Chucky got. It was for $15 in Chinatown. Oh, is it rooting? Ah! But yeah, it was like a $15 cutting, I think. And it's a pretty good deal considering how mature these leaves are. It has like double fenestrations and holy leaves that this one doesn't have, the ones that I grew. So this is a lot more mature. And hopefully it'll root and become a bigger monstera. So then my idea for this corner is to have this grow all the way to the top and just kind of frame this plant corner with really big leafy philodendrons and monsteras. So it's getting there. It's going on here, and hopefully by the end of next summer it'll grow all the way to the top. We'll see. These ones I've talked about in my other plant tours, so I'll just go through it really quickly. This is my variegated string of hearts that I got from my friend Caesar. and this tripled in size this summer. I thought like variegated string of hearts were really hard to take care of, but I think my issue was that I always bought them as cuttings, and cuttings are a lot harder to take care of because they're not fully developed, like the roots aren't fully developed. But if you buy like a mature variegated string of hearts that has like really good roots, I just wore this once a week with like really nice southern light, and it just takes off. Same thing with this regular string of hearts. Like it just took off this summer. This is another stringy plant. This is the Silver Glory. Also a really prolific grower. It was the same length as this, and I chopped it in half. Here I have some vanilla orchid that bounced back this summer, also given to me by my friend Caesar. This is another Hoya. This is the Hoya tricolor, and it really took off this summer as well. Let me try to bring it down. It didn't do anything for me for a long time. It actually reverted. This strand reverted. I might have to cut it back. We'll see, but I don't mind it. Here you can see new growth. It's pink stem. The variegation is back on this leaf. Yeah, I don't know why it took so long for it to start growing for me, but it seems to like this corner, which is a south-facing window. I find that Hoyas like bright, direct light, so I have most of my Hoyas here. On top, I have my Hoya public calyx. I didn't make this trellis. This trellis I actually bought from Amazon. I think it was like 2 for $6 or something, very cheap, but it loves it. Before, it was kind of empty and like balding, and then after I gave it this trellis, it started to develop these really nice splashy leaves that you see over there. And this is just my other Hoyas. This is the other Hoya Mycophylla, the variegated one that I took a cutting off of. Wasn't doing much for me, but throwing a lot of these long stems. This over here is my Hoya obovata. This bloomed for me like 4 or 5 times this summer. And you can see this is the peduncle where it bloomed. I think it bloomed twice in this one peduncle. So don't trim off these peduncles. They can actually rebloom again. Let me try to find you another peduncle. This is another peduncle. These peduncles actually developed last winter of 2020, and it did nothing. And then the summer of 2021, they started blooming. So don't cut these off, because I was very tempted to cut it off when it got so like long. But I'm glad I didn't, because they started blooming off of these peduncles. Here is more Hoyas. This is the Hoya Carnosa Green. It's just the regular one. And this is the Hoya Crimson Queen Carnosa. This has the variegation. When these leaves first start to grow out, they're pink, and they slowly turn into this creamy white color. You can kind of see this one. This is like a more newer white leaf. It's more pinkish. Very cool. There was actually a peduncle on here, but it shriveled up. I don't know what happened. But yeah, this is one of my oldest Hoyas too. I just love these white leaves. I think that's it for this plant corner. We can move on into my plant shelf in my living room, which is a north-facing room.
Ding ding ding! Quick announcement. The Feline Jungle shop is fully restocked with art prints, tote bags, and my earring and hair collection with Lossless Dress. If you want to support my channel, you can check it out at my shop for your favorite merch. Let's continue on with the video.
Come on into this room. This is my living room. This has north-facing windows, which has less light than the other room. You probably haven't seen this room in a long time because we film a lot of our videos in the other one because it just has a lot better light. Here to support the low light conditions in the winter, we use Soltech grow lights. If you guys are interested in getting grow lights, I have 15% off. I'll put the code in the bottom. But talking about plants, here in this corner, I have my Philodendron gloriosum. I love the texture of this plant. I talk about it way too much. This summer it doubled in size, and it's getting to the point where I just have to kind of repot it probably next spring or summer. This new growth point is like right up against the pot. This is a running type of plant, so it grows horizontally, which in this case is not good because it's like growing out of the pot. But for right now, for this winter, I think I'll do fine. Here is my Philodendron pestizanum, very close to the gloriosum, just that it has glossy leaves instead of velvety leaves. It's also a runner. So here you can see the new growth point is about to go right up against the pot as well. So probably next summer, spring, I'll have to repot this. Right next to it is my Anthurium clarinovium. This went through quite a bit this year, I would say. It didn't really grow for me. I had it in soil originally, and I think it didn't really like that. As I said, I'm not really good with anthuriums in soil. So I converted it into semi-hydroponics. These are leca balls, which are disc clay balls with water on the bottom. And since I switched it up, it's given me a lot of new roots. Look at these new juicy roots that are coming out of here. This one's new. I just saw this one form last week. So it's liking it a lot in semi-hydroponics. Even though it likes it, the new leaves are still smaller than the original ones, but at least it's giving me a new leaf. And after the new leaf, it actually gave me this flower. It's so happy that it gave me a flower. Usually I just cut it off, but like, you know, it wasn't doing well this whole year. I don't want to cut off the flower because the flower is telling me that it's happier. And my friend Diana told me that Anthurium clarinoviums like to self-pollinate, and they have like female and male glands. So here you can see like the pollen, and I think the sticky part is like the female parts. And if you like rub them together, I think they'll like make berries, is what I saw on the internet. I'm probably not saying this right scientifically, but basically that's what happens. So we'll see what this will do, but it was very interesting seeing this form. Now, talking about the plants on my plant shelf, here are my more low light plants. So I have my ZZ plants, different kinds of ZZs, the Raven, the Zenzi. I have my money tree and also some caletheas that I have here. Moving to the next shelf, these plants require a little bit more light than the ones on the bottom. This is my Philodendron glorious. Very similar to the gloriosum. It's a hybrid between the gloriosum and the melanochrysum. And this is a plant cutting that I got from my friend Sophie. The difference between the gloriosum and this one is that it's a climbing plant, so I don't have to worry about it, you know, running out of the pot because it grows upwards. Here I have a crappy bamboo stick as a support. I'll have to give it a proper moss pole at one point. But yeah, it's giving me this new leaf, so it's finally happy. Next to it, I have a very unhappy plant. This plant is not happy with me. This is the Philodendron atababoense, and it has a really interesting structure leaf. On the back, it has like this kind of burgundy color, which is really nice. This I actually cut this summer. I gave the bottom half of the plant to my friend Caesar, and I kept the top cutting, and I think it wasn't happy that I chopped it because this new growth point has been the same for months. So I think it's kind of telling me that it wasn't happy that I chopped it. But you know, the leaves are not turning yellow, so it's not too unhappy with me. Right next to it is one of my first anthuriums. This is the Anthurium vitarifolium. It has this kind of draping leaves. That's really cool. It kind of gives me like a new leaf, and then it kind of dies off, like another leaf just dies off after it gives me a new leaf. This one started turning yellow for a couple weeks now, but it still feels very healthy, and it looks kind of beautiful, so I just kind of left it here. I'll just let it drop off naturally, or when it gets like kind of mushy, I'll cut it off, but right now it just still feels very healthy, so I'll let it be as a new growth point coming on here. So very cool plant. Right next to it I have my watermelon peperomia, one of my only peperomias, and you know, I had struggled with it for a bit, but I just love it so much that I keep trying to keep it alive, and I think I finally understand it. Right next to it I have some other plants. This is my Alocasia cuprea. What did I tell you guys? I told you that all the leaves would drop off, and that's exactly what happened. But I'm not too worried about it because there's new roots that are forming, and this new growth point just popped up a couple weeks ago. So it's working on recovering from being imported from Indonesia. If you guys are curious about that video, I have an unboxing video and also a care video on what to do after you import plants. So I decided to keep this one in moss because I heard that alocasias do better in moss, but other plants I just repot it in soil or other mediums. I just keep it in the back until it looks pretty again. Right in front of it is a new plant cutting that I got. This I got from my friend Candace. She has like a really nice Hoya collection, and this is the AH074, I believe. It's very much like the Hoya pubicalyx. It has splashy leaves. She told me it's really easy to care for, which is why she gave it to me, because she knows that I'm just like starting to increase my Hoya collection. She had it in her propagation box, which is why these roots are going crazy. These aerial roots, you know, they just started growing off of the humidity in her prop box. Kind of looks funky, and I like how it looks, so I keep it here until I have another place for it. Moving up on top here, I have this one you guys are probably familiar with. This is the philodendron golden dragon. It has that kind of dragon head look, which is how it got its name. This summer it produced a few new leaves for me. It's not as mature as this one, which is what I bought it as, what I imported it as from Indonesia, so it's still working on giving me more mature form leaves, but it's trying to get there with the outline. Right below it, I have another plant that I traded with Candace for. This is another Hoya. This is the Hoya globulosum or globulosa, something like that. And I was drawn to it because of the form of the leaves. It has this like elongated leaf with really cool texture on it, and what I didn't know is that it's actually fuzzy. I didn't know it was so fuzzy, and now I can't stop touching it. So it's really cool. It has like fuzzy leaves, and she was telling me that it wasn't growing for her for a while, and then after she decided to like give me this plant, it started like producing these bigger leaves, and she's like, what the hell? So it's really funny and has a new growth point. This, she gave it to me in leca. She keeps a lot of her plants in leca. The roots are kind of going crazy, so I might have to repot it before the winter. We'll see. Right next to it, I have another Hoya. This is just the regular Hoya compacta, also known as the Hindu rope. And I just thought it would make really nice hair for this face planter that I got from Planta Planta, which I really love their work. Since he has such a big forehead, I decided it would be a nice addition to give it some curly hair. And in the beginning of the summer, the hairline started like here, and then it's grown a lot since. So I really like how it's like filling up his forehead. Right next to it, I have more pots from Planta Planta. Here he has like spaghetti hair from the Spanish moss. Yeah, the Spanish moss, which is the the plant that you saw hanging in my stairwell area. I just took some and put it here. This is one of my favorite pots, and I haven't found the right plant for it yet, which is why he doesn't have a plant. I feel like it needs the proper hair combination. Let me know if you guys have any plant recommendations to give this guy as hair, but I just haven't found the right hair for him, so he's empty. Right on the back, I'm like, I have more plants. This is also from Candace. Holy crap, look at this Hoya leaf. This is huge. It's like the size of my forehead. It's so big. And I didn't expect it to be so big. She had a plant sale going on her Instagram story, and she was selling this for 25 bucks. And in the photo, it looked like the leaf was this size. I'm like, okay, that's a pretty decent price for like a Hoya size this big. But when she gave it to me, it was like, holy crap, it's huge. And this was sold as a no ID Hoya. She says she imported from Indonesia as a latifolia, but it doesn't look like a latifolia to us. So let me know if you guys can figure out what this is. But it's living in like a... Here is my philodendron Birkin. I talk about this a lot. It's really loving the grow light. Before, the leaves had very low variegation. After I put it on the shelf with my Soltec grow lights, it started giving me these really beautiful variegations that's known for Birkin. Here is another plant that wasn't giving me variegation. This is the philodendron periosa. No, philodendron Paricio verde. Okay, philodendron Paricio verde. It was a cutting given to me by my friend Caesar, and it had very low variegation on the bottom. After I dropped it and it like cut in half, I guess it like jump started the variegation again. And this is the newest leaf that came out, which is really beautiful. This is how a Paricio should look like. And there's a new leaf coming out here. And it looks like it has variegation too. So I'm very, very excited about the comeback of this one, because I was freaking out when I dropped it. Right next to it is another philodendron. This is the philodendron Painted Lady. It also has some variegation, not doing too happy, but also not doing that bad. I don't know what's wrong with it. Maybe it's just like it needs more soil, I'm not sure. But it's still living. Here is also a recent addition that I got. This is the plant swap that I got from that plant swap in Brooklyn. I did a vlog about it. It was hosted by my friends Phoebe and Christopher. This I got from Ashley, and this is a philodendron bipennifolium. Very similar to the Florida Ghost, which is why I got attracted to it, just because of the form of the leaves. And I decided it would be perfect for this planter that I got from Tula House on the same day, which I did a vlog about. And yeah, it has a surprise front and a back. A lot of things to look at, very interesting. And what I love about this planter is that it has a saucer made just for, you know, the whole outline. Isn't that cool? Right next to it is the original Hoya Australia. This one, as I said, was not producing new leaves for me. It just kept dying off. You can see all the little stumps here where it tried to start something. And at one point I just snapped it all off, which encouraged this newest growth point, and it looks like it's not shriveling up yet, so it's giving me hope. This happened after we bought the other pot of Australia, so maybe it kind of kicked it in the butt and realized that I had to start doing something or we might give it away. Right next to it, we have another new addition that I imported from Indonesia. This is the Epipremnum punctatum, the variegated version. A very fast grower. This is just the juvenile form. Once it matures, it has fenestrations just like the Monstera. So if you're looking for like a cheaper version of the variegated Monstera, this is a good substitution, I would say. It has very nice variegation in all leaves. And I made it a little moss pole to grow off of to try to encourage the fenestrations. Yeah, it was one of the plants that just, you know, came in really healthy condition. If you guys are interested in knowing more about like importing plants from Indonesia, I actually wrote a blog about it, about like what you should know about, like the phytosanitary certificates and all the things you need to know about importing plants from Indonesia. So you can check it out if you want. In the back over here, I have very sad philodendron silver sword. It's the original one. It just keeps getting leggy. You see how I try to wrap it in moss to encourage some aerial roots and maybe try to cut it off so it's less leggy, but it seems like every single time when it comes to winter, it just starts dropping off the lower leaves, and that's exactly what happened. So I don't know what to do with it. Okay, so moving on to the top shelf of this plant wall, we have my philodendron micans, which is growing like crazy. One of my most favorite trailing philodendrons. It has the velvety leaves, and every so often I have to chop it back because it just grows so fast. Right now it's about to touch the floor over here. I also like to chop it back because it encourages bigger leaves. When you let it trail like that, the lower leaves kind of get smaller and smaller, so I do like to just cut it back a bit. Right next to it, I have another one of my favorite philodendrons. This is the philodendron Brazil. Very common plant, but it's just like very nice variegation. Each leaf is different, and I think I got this for like $4 or $5. It's very cheap, but I just love it a lot. Moving right next to it, so here is my Stephania erecta. I had a video on how I made it sprout during the winter, and since then it's given me a lot of new leaves to the point where I just have to get it a trellis. And I couldn't find, you know, the perfect trellis for it, for like the kind of unique structure that it has. So I made a DIY trellis and a video on how I made it and the whole process, and I really like how it turned out. I like how it's like funky and it goes with the character of the leaves, I'd say. You can see here that it's starting to yellow a little bit. I don't know if it's because it's about to go into winter and it's about to get dormant, but there's a yellow leaf over there. There was a growth point here that hasn't done anything right here, so I don't know. I might have to cut it back, or it might just die off during the winter. Not really sure what will happen, but we'll find out. Right next to it, I have a true philodendron Florida Ghost that I got from my most recent import. I was really excited about when I imported it from Indonesia because it has like the actual creamy white leaves that I'm looking for. Since then, since it's arrived, it's given me 2 new leaves. This is the first one that came out. It's more green compared to these ones that I imported, the older leaves. I'm wondering if it's just like the American air or the American humidity that makes it more green. I don't know. But I have it living on my top shelf, so hopefully the grow light will encourage more lighter leaves. This is the newest leaf that came out this week. It's still trying to harden right here, and you can see that it's significantly more green compared to these older ones as well. I don't know if it's just like recovering from being imported, or I don't know what it is. A true philodendron Florida Ghost. Right next to it is another philodendron Florida type. This is my Philodendron Florida Beauty, which I love, 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 love. This is basically a variegated Philodendron Florida Ghost, and it has really nice variegation. This plant, I actually split it with my friend Caesar, and I think I got the bottom cutting. Yeah, I think this is the bottom cutting. And when I cut it, it was not happy with me. And it started producing these like fully green leaves. I was like, no, it's reverting. But after like these 2 leaves, it started giving me that nice variegation again. And this is the newest leaf, which is really beautiful. So don't give up on your plant if you don't see variegation. It'll most likely just come back. And now that I have it living so high up on my grow light, you can see these petioles are more red compared to these bottom ones. Very similar to the Philodendron squarefolium that I had in the front of my door entrance. And these stems are becoming more red, which is pretty cool. And it's just living in my cup of moss with all these crazy roots. I'll probably just repot it next spring. Yeah, it's so beautiful. One of my pride and joys. I just love it a lot. Like every day you'll see me taking it down and looking at it. Philodendron Pink Princess. This is one of the cuttings that I took from the mother plant. And it's more promising than the other ones. I know you guys have been waiting for like a Pink Princess update from me, but there's really not much to update about because they've just been very green, as you can see. But this one has more pink compared to the other ones. So yeah, and I even gave it a moss pull to try to encourage more growth. So we'll see what this will do. Right next to it is my Philodendron Dark Lord. This philodendron has these very dark green foliage. They come out red, as you can see on the top leaf. That's the newest leaf. It comes out red, and then as it hardens, it becomes this really nice dark green foliage. If you guys are into like gothy plants or into more dark foliage, then this is the plant for you. The last plant on my plant shelf is this Philodendron Red Queen. This is one of my most favorite plants to, I say that about every plant, but this one, I like it a lot because it grows really quickly and has these crazy aerial roots that just grow inside these leaves. I don't know what it's trying to do, but the reason why it's called the Philodendron Red Queen is because of the backs. It has this really nice red color. I have a crappy stick for it as support. I have to give it more love. Because it's on the top, it's very hard for me to care for it, and I know it's a very low maintenance plant, which is why I have it on top. But as you can see, it needs a little bit trimming, like this leaf is turning yellow. Since winter is coming, you know, leaves are turning yellow. If you watch my winter tip video, you know that you have to prune off these dead leaves. Winter is coming! Let me show you something else that's very exciting in the feline jungle. This is my other cat, Thing. He has his own personal hammock. He doesn't like to share his space, so this whole window space is his. And yeah, he's the king. Here's another plant of mine. I also got this from a plant swap last year. It was just like one string of, this is called string of spades. I got it as one cutting that I propagated in water, and since then it's grown so much for me that I actually potted it in soil. I also have some other plants on this side of my north-facing room. This is the Hoya Eskimo, and it has these really nice silvery leaves. I have it in just a mix of different types of semi-hydro mediums. I don't know what I'm trying to do here, but I have some leca balls, I have some mini leca balls, and I have some ponds in here as well. Just experimenting. It's also in a self-watering pot that I got from Amazon. And yeah, it's just living in here. This is another cutting that I got from a plant swap. This is from my friend Agatha. This is not a Hoya, this is a Dischidia. This is Dischidia watermelon. It's got its name because of the texture and how it looks like the watermelon. It's actually just one cutting and it's branching off. This is another branch that it's made recently. It has a lot of new leaves coming out. It's like it doesn't know that it's winter. And it's also in a self-watering pot. The roots are coming out of there as well. So maybe I need to repot it. Maybe it'll just last in here during the winter. This one's an empty one. Yeah, it's just an empty one. I need to put something in it. Originally it had Hoya Bertonii cuttings. This is the mother Bertonii. This I also got from my friend Agatha from her plant swap. This is actually just two cuttings and it's branched off to so many different branches. And what I like about it is that the leaves come out kind of purpley and it develops into this dark foliage. It has this fuzzy texture to it as well. Here you can see the roots are growing like crazy. I need to repot this one as well. And on the bottom, I'm just avoiding my problems. You can see how it's just coming out of the pot as well. Yeah, leca is really good for rooting your plants, especially Hoyas. And they just do so well in leca that you need to repot it so quickly because the roots just keep forming.
That's a wrap for my winter plant tour. I'm really happy to recap all the exciting things that happened in the feline jungle this year. I probably won't add any new plants from now until spring. I'll be focusing on keeping my plants happy during the colder months. If you're located somewhere where the seasons are changing too, then you should check out my winter plant care video. Thank you so much for watching, and if you guys enjoy this, don't forget the 10-second challenge to like, comment, subscribe, and share this video with all your friends. Thank you so much and see you guys next week. Bye!